for anyone who cares. Echo
Listener land.
cancellation.
Yeah.
Saves
echo
ourselves.
cancellation. It does, actually.
It does. It makes a difference. It
It
really does.
helps. Yeah. So you just got back from the beach.
Yeah, so we went to the
Yeah.
beach. We went to Oak Island, and apparently there are two Oak Islands. One's in Canada, and there's something called the Curse of Oak Island. So that is not where I went. I went to the normal, boring beach town, Oak Island, where no curses that I'm aware of were taking place. So all good there, but it was really nice. We didn't go super long. We just did a short like spring break trip. We were there for several days, but not like, you know what I mean? I wasn't there forever, but it was a perfect amount. The weather was beautiful. I don't think it got above 75, 77. So we could just sit out on the beach all day. Yeah, we could just do whatever we needed to do. We weren't, suffering too much, So
I can hear Noah.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Hang on. Can you whisper, my buddy? Okay. I have a buddy with me today. I'm alone and I got worried about her, so I told her to come sit up here with me. She was hanging out too long without me, so sorry, listener land. If you can hear her, you'll hear her singing, but this is life. This is life, so.
Yeah, we'll see. We usually can get the background noise out, but I could hear her for a minute. I was like, oh, that was close.
Yeah. The background noise, another technical thing, Riverside sponsor us, but Riverside's awesome. The program we use, it takes out the background noise.
Yeah,
usually.
It really is great.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is good.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad you had a good time. I'm ready to go to a beach.
It was really nice that I could just drive. Like there wasn't any thought into it. We packed the morning of kind of thing. And, I wasn't, I didn't have to think about like, what am I taking on a plane? We could take everything.
Yeah.
So anything we needed, we had, or if we wanted to take clubs, to play golf or to do whatever, it was all in the car. We didn't have to think about it.
Yeah. Good. Well, I was telling Myra before, we kind of just chat before we get on, and we don't really ever have a structure around necessarily what exactly we're going to talk about. We just kind of let what's happening in our lives or what's been brought to us that week kind of guide us. So I was sharing with her, I wasn't sure how to bring this into the episode, but this weekend I was not at the beach. I was cleaning a huge jewelry box that I've had for, oh my gosh, I was trying to think how long I've had that thing. Well, it has to be close to 20 years because some of the stuff I had in there was from I know I had to be in my 30s.
Yeah.
And I had been talking about cleaning this jewelry box, for a good 2 months. And I've just been putting it off. Well, Saturday I was like, okay, today's the day. Mm-hmm. And I just started. I was like, okay, you're going to just start with one layer at a time. But as I was starting to go through everything, I was telling Myra, it was kind of fun. I would think about, when I wore these earrings or this necklace or bought this or that, and kind of where I was in my life when I wore it or what it meant to me at the time. And I kind of sat there surrounded by so much stuff, right? Just necklaces and bracelets and earrings and stuff that I store in my jewelry box that isn't jewelry. And I just sit there like, what caused me to hang on to this for this long? Like, what is the attachment that I had? And, some of the memories that I had of that was at a completely different time in my life. Like some of the stuff I looked at, I was like, oh, that's when I used to, go to Vegas a lot and go to clubs and dance and party a lot, And that's such a different phase than I'm in now. What a fun phase, but it's a different phase. And I just had this moment of realization, like, you will never be that version of yourself again. That is never going to be a part of who you are because we're going to evolve, whether we're evolving consciously or unconsciously, right? And that's part of why we do this podcast. Is one of my passions in life is to start to evolve consciously and to inspire others to evolve consciously. And so I threw away 2 bags worth of jewelry.
That's so crazy.
2 bags, you guys. Like, what in the hell? But it was so easy once I kind of had this realization to let stuff go and I would say to the pieces, like, thank you for what you gave me in that time, right? And I did appreciate you, but this is no longer serving me and I don't need to hang on to it anymore.
Yep.
And now I've just got such a simplified version of things, and it just felt even in my room, and I keep that jewelry box in my room where I do my meditation and I have it set up for my spiritual practice as well. And it's lighter. It's different. The energy is different because all of that is now gone, right? I'm more in the present moment of who I am today. And accepting who I am today and not wishing for the who I was. So often I hear people comment on that. I'm going to be 53 in July, and I try really hard to watch what I say because, my group of friends, it's in my same age group, they'll say things like, oh, didn't feel this when I was 30, or, creaky knees now that I'm 50, or, and you bring that energy to you when you think about it in that respect, right? But I don't want to yearn for my 30s or 40s. I want to enjoy and be present in the energy that I am today and not seek what I had at one point, not wish for it, not long for it, because then you're never in the present moment. Like you're in the past, you're reflecting.
Yeah.
So it was a cool experience actually for me to go through that process and just really kind of become aware of what the hell is this hoarder gene going on? Why was I ordering, and hanging on to this stuff? And why had I even avoided doing it for a few months? I knew it had to be done. Something kept telling me like, a few months ago, it's time to really purge some of this stuff. And I just had been procrastinating it horribly.
Yeah. So. No, I love that so much. And it's made me think of a million things as you're talking, and I promise I'm listening, but it's like, oh, that boop, boop, little.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
If you visualized, but it made me think about our very first episode, we talked about clutter, and we talked about releasing those things that no longer serve us, especially physical things. And it's made me think about a couple other things too with that, with like, I hold on to clothes. Clothes are my thing, I actually have addressed why I was buying clothes a lot, and I've really worked through that, and I'm not buying and purchasing clothing like I used to, but I do have a lot of it still. I have a lot of excess clothing. I have clothing in my garage. I have clothing in boxes still that haven't been unpacked. And, one of those things where it's like, why am I holding on to those too? I can look at clothing and think, I can remember a moment in my life when I wore it, or why I had it, or what was the purpose of the piece of clothing, or why I bought. I can tell you why I bought it, like what I was going through when I bought it, and it's making me think, oh gosh, I need to just let it go. I need to let those things go. But it's part of that sentimental nature that we start placing onto objects where it feels like it's holding on to something that we can't go back for. And so by holding on to these objects, we're still holding on to the memory or the feeling or what it represented at the time. I've been having similar conversations, especially like I mentioned in another episode, I believe my niece is graduating. And so I'm talking about this time in her life. Like, I don't want to go back to high school. I don't want to be a high schooler. I don't want to go back to college. I don't want to do any of those things again. But I told her, just enjoy the moment while you're in it. And not because I long to be back. I wish I would have just savored the moment when I was there more. We're always wishing for more. Like, I always wanted to hurry up and get out of high school, or I wanted to hurry up and go to college. I wanted to hurry up and get a 9-to-5. I wanted to hurry up and do this. I wanted to graduate. I wanted to get married. I wanted to move forward in all these phases. And I told her, I said, there's a whole life to live, and you'll have all these different opportunities to present at all these different times. So if your friends want to go have lunch with them. Don't worry about this or that or the future, or if you're upsetting your boyfriend or whoever, and I'm just using that as a example. Or, or if she was like, oh, I don't really know if I want to see these people, because you really more than likely will not see these people again. And especially in larger areas where you just really don't cross paths with those people. I don't see anyone I went to school with. But I really think about it a lot in college, where I just was constantly ahead. I was thinking of everything except being there. And you can't go back to that time and space again. You just can't. It's gone. It's moved on. Even Myra this morning is not Myra on this call, and it's the beauty of life. It's the beauty of growing, like you said, consciously, and changing consciously, and evolving consciously and physically and emotionally. And it's the beauty of it. But I think that's why we hold on to these tangible things. Like I still have certain things from college, and I don't know why. I have a tote that I've moved with every time I've moved that's got
Mm-hmm.
college t-shirts in it. Why do I'm never going to wear them. I don't even know what I'm going to do with them. But it's those things I think that we allow ourselves to tie to those moments because we physically can't go back to them, but those tangible objects are a representation of who we were in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, we are eternal souls having a human experience. Part of the human experience is things, right? Tangible things. We live in a 3D energy.
Yeah.
We have, I'm sitting at a desk, I'm on a chair, right? Things that support our bodies because we're in a physical form at this point, right? But it's so interesting the attachment that we get to the thing. Like I was working with a client the other day, and her mom passed away, I don't know, close to a year, I would say, ago. And we were talking, and she hasn't done anything with the home, with any of her mom's stuff. And I was like, what do you think's holding you back from that, And she got emotional, and she's like, I don't want to let go. And I understand. We kind of had a conversation around like, the things are never a representation, or can never, if you burnt the whole place down, let's just go there, right? If you
Yeah.
lit a match and you burnt the whole place down, that could never shift that you had a beautiful relationship with the energy of your mother. Like that energy always exists. That relationship can never be shifted because a car doesn't exist, or a home doesn't exist, or a piece of jewelry doesn't exist, right?
Yep.
But we attach so much of our memories and our energy to items.
Yeah.
Right. And then they represent something. And so we all do it, and I've had to really pay attention because I just wrote this down and had an epiphany right here with you, Myra, because you talked about clothes, right? I have a ton of clothes. I have a room dedicated to clothes and shoes. Right? Yeah. It's a fucking room, people. And I just had this huge epiphany that is completely tied to my ego. 100% that's tied to my ego. Because I wear most of the same things. You know what I mean? I circle through most of the same clothes. Now, there are clothes sitting on my shelf that I haven't worn in probably 2 years. But like, imagine if I dummied all that down and I didn't have all this. What would that say to my ego? Like, yeah. Am I still, because I like to be fashionable. I like to be trendy.
Yeah.
But I associate that, for whatever reason, to quantity, how much I have, exactly. Right? And so it just hit me. That is really a part of my ego. It kind of showed me a shadow of myself right there, that I have some work to do on that space too. So maybe in a few episodes, I'll tell you guys how I cleaned out my closet.
Yeah, help me out, because that's hard. I start and because I know exactly what you're talking about. I start going through things, and then I'm like, oh, but I wore that in this family picture, or oh, like proposed to me in that. Like, what the heck, or I mean, like, I'll keep my wedding dress, but that's different, but there are these other things where I swear I bought things, especially during pregnancy, and I bought all these certain clothes because I was going through something and they made me feel away, right? And I see the clothes now and I'm like, I haven't even touched them since I was pregnant, and I don't want to wear them. They don't really fit my style. I've evolved as a person, and I'm not trying to be wasteful either, but it's, what can I do with these clothing? Can I donate the clothing? Some people like to sell things, and that's great, if that's what you like to do, or is there someone that could use it, that you know what I mean? Like, there's other ways to utilize and honor those pieces, those objects, for whatever they were, whatever purpose they served. And while the whole time you've been talking about the jewelry box, I just keep seeing my garage. Like why are those things there? It's like, that is just so ridiculous. So it's my ego too, I guess. When you're talking, we were talking.
Well, yeah.
I'm like, to me, I think it's where I grew up wanting clothes and things, that it's part of the ego. Like, to me, having the objects represents like a version of me that, I don't even know what you'd call it. Just like, not status. I don't like the word status, but my mom shopped around a lot at whatever cheap clothing that she could find. And so when I started making money, even just babysitting, I would buy clothes. That was the first thing I started doing. I wanted to dress myself. And I feel like clothing, part of that is like to me, it used to be a representation of what Myra is, but that's not really who I am anymore. As I've evolved,
Mm-hmm.
those clothing items don't equal Myra,
Yeah.
and it's not an identity, I guess. There we go.
Yeah.
They served an identity for me, and that's not an identity. Now that I know that's not an identity of mine.
At one point,
It
it did
was.
serve that,
Yeah.
though. Yeah, and that's what I'm feeling like. When I wrote that down, I'm like, this is your ego, right? And there was a lot of identification or to status for me. Some of the stuff that's still there. Like I remember one of my goals was, I think it was around my 40th birthday. Maybe it was a few years before that I was going to buy Jimmy Choo shoes. That was all ego and status for me, right? All of it. I still have those son of a bitches in my closet. I can't wear them anymore because they kill my feet.
Yeah.
But that, why am I hanging on to that? Like,
Exactly.
what is it still showing me? I'm getting a sense of, and we do this, we get attached to things, right? We get attached to them too because it is serving our ego. It is serving our status. It does play a role in that. And then trying to like say, okay, I don't want that to define me anymore. I don't need that to make me feel a certain way for my self-worth, right?
Oh, I agree. I've been going through that just in general with like labels. Like Jimmy Choo, that was a great example.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot of designer bags, I have a lot of designer things, and I haven't even carried them since I bought them. Or like I carried them for a short period of time, and I've been going through items, and I went through this crazy thing like, what if I never can buy it again? Like what the is that? Like that was a total that goes back to shadow work about worthiness. Like, am I worthy to even own these items? Am I worthy to purchase these items? And so part of that to me was just exposure of like, okay, what the heck? And so I
Mm-hmm.
ended up, I did actually sell it. So I overcame that, and I'm like, you know what? This is a beautiful bag, and it can serve me a purpose in another way now. And this other person can enjoy it for whatever they want to enjoy it for.
Yeah.
But I had to really work through all that. It was like a really weird, like mental game around an object.
Yeah. I also think it's deflection. So I think about when I bought those Jimmy Choo shoes, right? And they had the Jimmy Choo bag, and I'll never forget it. It was like it was yesterday, and they had a little ribbon that went through, and I it was so egotistical, like going onto the plane. Like I remember leaving Vegas, carrying my little Jimmy Choo bag. This is so embarrassing to talk about, but it's so true. I wanted people to look at me, Myra.
Exactly.
Like as I look back at that version of myself, I wanted people to look at me with that damn Jimmy Choo shoe bag,
Yeah.
right? But you know what that truly was? It was deflection because I didn't know who I was yet. I didn't have enough self-love. So it was like, see me for this image of who I
Exactly.
wanted people to see, but I couldn't even yet look at myself for who I truly was.
Yep.
That's just another form of deflection, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It's kind of like, I don't love the word addiction, but people fill themselves up with something when they don't want to feel who they truly are. They don't want to give themselves time to sit with who they are or understand who they are. And that's where, self-love is so, so important. And finding that true self, your true authentic self, I guess, right?
Oh yeah,
And so, yeah, it
for
was
sure.
crazy thinking
Yeah,
through.
I if you're familiar with Sephora, folks, like when you buy so many items, you get different statuses. And like I've always been a rouge or a rouge. I don't even know. I'm saying it wrong probably, but whatever. The top status. And over the last year or two, I have not really bought makeup like that. Like, and there was an addiction part of that for me where I needed to buy makeup because it would make me feel away or make me look away, or would it make this change or whatever, because I didn't love myself. And so the other day I got on there, and there was a sale. The Sephora sale was going on, and I went to go shop it for the first time. I mean, seriously, like I hadn't even really messed with the app or anything, and I was shocked. I was like, why am I not getting the discount? Well, I'm not the status anymore. So then I had this like mental sadness. And then I'm like, oh, let me go buy this massive order to buy all these things for what? Like it was, I started going back into the same thought pattern of like feeling myself full of objects and things that I don't need, and I love makeup and there's nothing wrong with buying makeup. And I think makeup is fun and I enjoy it. But at that time before to be that status, I know I was buying it excessively. Like it was ridiculously excessively. I didn't need all the products that I bought. Some of them I was testing, some of them I wasn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the fun of makeup. But I usually refer to clothes as like filling up a certain part of me that I thought I needed. But, I was just thinking about that with the makeup, and then my status is decreased, and I'm like, what the heck? But it was one of those moments that I had to really think about, okay, what am I trying to achieve here? I don't need a status with Sephora. I don't need to buy all this random makeup just to be a certain status. And I had to really go through that in my mind with the identity part of it,
Yeah. Yeah. I think it kind of goes back to like thinking about what is the true intention.
Mm-hmm.
What is the intention of what you're doing, right? And why? Where's your dog?
I know.
Aww.
For those who watch us on YouTube,
Aww.
Boomer decided
Boomer.
to look how
haven't
cozy.
Seen Boomer in so long. Look at him. He's so
look
cute.
Look how gray he is.
I know. He's adorable.
I want to be Boomer.
Yeah, I want to be Boomer too. Look at him. He looks at us. Oh God, he's awesome. What a nice surprise.
Yeah, he's awesome.
But I mean, and there's nothing, like, that's what I mean about intention. Like, there's nothing wrong with desiring or wanting something for yourself, right? And if today, if I decided I wanted to buy a pair of, designer shoes, I would do it with a different intention. At that moment in my life, I was not serving it. I wasn't doing it to serve me. I was doing it to serve an image of what I wanted people to believe I was. Those are very different, right? Things. And so everything comes back to intention, right? Why are you truly doing it? And being honest about it. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm able to be honest in this moment about it because I've done the work to get there. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe this with 100% of my soul, my mind, my heart, everything, is that intention is always going to be what leads the outcome, right? If your intention is true and honest and authentic, the outcome of that will be reflected back to you, kind of going back to the episode of the karma, right? What is the intention that you have into it? That's going to be coming back to you. But you have to be able to be really honest and have a lot of introspection there about what the intention is. Because if you would have asked me that, when I bought those shoes a decade or more ago, I wouldn't have been able to have any authenticity to answer that question. No. Truthfully.
Oh, no, for sure. And the same with me and any of the things, like the laundry list of things, I couldn't have really thought about it and answered it in the same sense or the same light, and we talk about too, you're talking about energy with intention and like the karmic exchange, but like when I bought these items, what was my energy around those items too,
Mm-hmm.
And then now that I was selling one of those items, my energy was weird then too, and so those just really, now that I'm looking at it from a different lens, I can really see where I had a lot of work to do, and I still have work to do, and that's just part of it, is identifying and being aware of where we're currently at and what we need to do to work through those things. Like it just really opened something for me that I hadn't really thought about in a while around objects and meanings and, even money and status, identity, ego around those things. So that was really eye-opening then too.
Yeah, I've had a couple light bulb moments of things I got to work on. I mean, because it's a continuing journey, right? Like I don't know what the word is. Where does the journey end? I'm not quite sure. But I believe that we are here to expand our souls to a level of what I think a common term that people all use is enlightenment, right? Yeah. But what does that actually mean? I'm not sure I'm the expert on that yet. But I do want to make as much progress in this lifetime that I've been given, because I don't want to have to come back and do some of the same hardships that I've had, that I've gotten the opportunity to do in this lifetime, right? And the only The difference in that is awareness and truthfulness within yourself.
Yeah.
And really looking at yourself with a true set of honest eyes and being able to understand it and telling yourself the hard things, right?
Yeah.
The tough things.
Exactly.
As to why you're doing what you're doing. So
yeah, I
that's
agree.
the hard part.
And then how do you work through those things? You know, I'm sure people listening, you've made it this far in the episode and are probably thinking like, well, then what do you do with that? What do you do in those moments?
This thing is the introspection piece.
Yeah.
That's always the hardest thing, right? Like when I was talking about the client that, you know, I just asked, you know, why do you think you've hung on to this stuff for so long? And the moment of her being able to be authentic and say, I feel like if I give it up, I'm giving up my relationship with her. That's authenticity. That's truth. And even when she said that, I'm like, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Like now you know where you're at.
Exactly.
You can't change something if you don't know where you're at.
Exactly.
And then offering her a different perspective of if everything was gone today, every monetary thing, every physical thing, the relationship would never be different. You still had this beautiful relationship. You had this beautiful love between the two of you that can never be taken away no matter what. So it's like, okay, what is the foundation of why I'm doing it? And then what I call reframing.
Okay.
Reframe the situation, right? Because you're giving it the meaning. Everything is neutral. And then you give it meaning. That's why you know this, and people who talk to me on a continual basis, I hate using terms like positive or negative. That's you deciding what that is. You're making the determination of whether it's a positive experience or a negative experience. I was telling Myra, so when I was cleaning out my jewelry box, I found a letter that my husband had written me on our 5th wedding anniversary. And I also found a letter that my best friend of 30 plus years had written about me from 2009. I read back through those and I was crying, right? I was crying tears of joy, right? Tears of joy. There was nothing negative in the energy of my emotion. It was beautiful. And I thought about how lucky I might have had these relationships with these people that have helped me grow, helped them grow, an expression of, you know, love between my friend and my husband. You know, those are beautiful things for me. And it was really cool. But my husband walked in and he said to me, well, you don't have to cry. Like, why are you crying? Like, my emotion kind of made him feel a little uncomfortable. And I was completely comfortable in it because I'm comfortable in my emotion now.
Exactly.
You know, but immediately sometimes when we see tears or we see a reaction to something, somebody's emotion, we sometimes, it's our uncomfortability sometimes that makes them want to stop. And this is one of the things in society that I think is really dangerous for people because we are built with emotion, but yet in the societal structure, we're sometimes condemning emotion, right? You know, parents telling your kids, you don't need to cry about that. Suck it up. You know, how do we change that type of behavior and understand that emotion is healthy? It's okay. It's part of who we are.
Exactly. Yeah, I think, and I love that. The word I was thinking when you were talking and the reframing, that was it. Just really changing your mindset around it too, and then putting that different spin on, okay, here's where I'm at, here's where I want to go, here's what I've identified. Now, what do I need to do to make that happen? Instead of just thinking it's going to happen for you or to you.
Yeah, you always have to have action.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing changes without it.
Exactly.
But a lot of times action is as simple as awareness. Awareness is action. Right? And then once you have an awareness, your action could potentially be the next time that situation comes up or the next time that I have the desire, like we've been talking about, purchasing things. If I have a desire to purchase something and you take a minute and you go, okay, is this feeding something else? What is the reason for it? What is the intention behind it? That is action too. So it comes back to a level of awareness that most people don't want to do because we're lazy.
Exactly.
A lot of times, really, you know, you get lazy, you get in this cycle, you get in your comfort zone, and people don't want to have very much awareness around themselves. I call it victim energy. So often people go into victim energy. It's so much easier. I'm going to blame this person. I'm going to blame that person. You know, I'm blaming my boss for my shitty existence at my job. I'm blaming my husband or my wife for my shitty marriage. I'm blaming, you know, my kids for whatever. You know, I'm blaming, you know, I talked to a client the other day, her grown, an adult, I don't know how old he is at this point, maybe in his late 30s. I don't honestly know. Still kind of blaming things that happened in his childhood. And I have a theory, no one rides for free, man. Every person in this world has what we refer to as trauma. At different levels, absolutely. But at some point, you still own your experience. Or you don't, and you can continue in victim energy. That's the beauty of this universe. We're here with free will. You can just keep going there all you want. Not sure it's going to serve you long term, or that you're going to come out a very joyful individual.
Yeah,
but you can keep doing it.
Exactly.
You know, you have that choice.
Yeah, and it's really moving out of that headspace. Also, that kind of goes back to like when you're talking about emotions and people being uncomfortable and other people's emotions, like when you move out of victim energy, people start getting uncomfortable with that. When you don't want to sit in the, oh, the why me, the, oh, I feel sorry for me. I've noticed when also too, when I'm talking with people and they're so heavy in victim energy and I'm trying to, you know, I'm reframing with them and I'm talking to them and I'm sharing, you know, inside, and it's not in alignment to that victim energy. You can tell they're very uncomfortable because they haven't done the introspection, they haven't done the self-reflection and really made themselves aware of the root of what's going on.
Yeah, I agree. I think I try to be aware of my shadow as much as possible, right? And I believe that whatever's happening in my life, especially when I feel uncomfortable, I try to pay even more attention, more closely. Yeah. Or I'm with, or somebody's been brought into my life that irritates me.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this person's really here to teach me something. And what is the irritation showing me? So I have a coworker that was very irritating to me. And I had to really sit with it in a meditation, like, what is this friction I'm feeling? Why? Mm-hmm. And I had an epiphany on the way that they approach things is a way that in my childhood, a lot of the feminine energy approached things, a little meek, a little bit like the masculine. They let the masculine kind of have control. Yeah. Right. And this individual does that. And that's what was irritating me. And I still have a little bit of that to work on. It showed me a little bit more of my shadow. Right. So as soon as I acknowledged that, though, this is a cool thing about it. Because I gave gratitude for it. And then, honestly, I haven't had to deal with this person like I had to. It's like the universe puts them there until you figure it out to help you. And then when you have the appreciation for it, you don't have to have the experience anymore.
Exactly.
It really goes that quickly.
I love that. That's so true. I think about that with people or experiences, or when you address it and you're like, thank you. And then they move out or they move on, or you don't see them as much or whatever.
Yeah, just naturally, right? I haven't had to do one thing. I didn't do anything substantially different. It's just they haven't been in my sphere the way they were.
That's awesome.
Well, yeah, it's great. I know.
Awesome.
Shadow work, man.
It really works.
Well, you don't even have to do shadow. People talk about shadow work. I think shadow work's always happening for us. The universe is bringing us what we need. It's how much are we paying attention?
Yeah, exactly.
To what is it that's causing that, right?
Yeah.
So, well, we kind of went in a circle today, but it's been good.
But hey, it's been a great episode. Yeah.
It has been a good episode. So until next time, keep your vibes high
and stay sassy.